green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place.
Ready?
This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go.
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go. And a good football Monday, Birds fans. Although each and every single start of Birds 365, we scream, let's go, let's go. We actually mean it this week because let's go. The season is right. We are on the doorstep. It is upon us. With the Eagles reporting to training camp tomorrow, which means John McMullen will be reporting to training camp, but not till Wednesday, right, Johnny Mac? They're going to give you grass time starting on Wednesday?
Starting on Wednesday, very limited grass time this summer, but grass time nonetheless. Yeah. I mean, did you see Ruben's column this week, Jody?
Yes.
Did you see his last nugget? I really enjoyed that, so I'll give Ruben a hat tip.
I read it. I don't remember it, so please.
Dick Vermeil obviously is about to go.
About the amount of practice hours, yes.
Yeah, and he compared Dick Vermeil's first training camp, which, by the way, went from July 5th to September 3rd, and they played 6 preseason games back then. And he compared the number of hours of preparation time as best he could figure, ballparking it, at about 180 hours compared to this year, which it's unbelievable.
How many hours are the Eagles supposed to be practicing? Just a general guesstimate, probably within an hour.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit. He probably undersold it. He had it 19 hours. 19 hours. Now, see, there are walkthroughs. See, the problem is, back in those days, like everything was open to the media. Like everything. They didn't care because the sport wasn't as popular and they enjoyed, the coverage, the publicity and the coverage and all that kind of stuff. Now, Friday news dumped us on the credential applications. They didn't come out till Friday afternoon, the week before training camp, late in the afternoon, 6, 7 o'clock. They don't want the coverage. So, there's a lot of walkthroughs. They get one walkthrough, one real practice, whatever you want to call it. They're both, each day. So there's a little bit more, but yeah. It's not even remotely like it used to be.
And we all have to get used to it. Those of us who can remember back to when Dick Vermeil was the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. We just can long for those days all we want, but they are gone. They should not be forgotten, but do not lament the fact that
don't lament 6 preseason games. I'll say that.
There you go. Johnny finding the silver lining of every cloud. There's just going to be less preparation done. That's the new norm in the National Football League, and the Eagles are even on the low end of things because they believe that less is more and guys don't get hurt. So forget about comping the Eagles of today to the Eagles of 40 plus years ago. Just comp the Eagles of today to the other teams in the National Football League. And the Eagles put in less hours in practice time than almost everybody else in the National Football League. But despite the fact that they're going to have so little time, self-decided so little time, to prep for the upcoming season, John McMullen came out with his first 53-man roster for the Philadelphia Eagles this week on JAKIBSports.com. He takes pride in the fact that before the season starts, he's pretty damn good at guessing along with the Eagles as to who is going to be kept. Now, the one thing I must ask you before we go through your list, and we've got two good guests joining us today, Paul Domich and Zach Berman, two very good Eagle beat guys. Did you put this list together before the major Eagles signing over the weekend of the former Dallas Cowboy back who took it in from 22 yards out in that varsity versus JV game last year in December between the Eagles and the Cowboys? Quick question. Jaquan Hardy, do I remember him right? Was he a guy who was quasi-prominently shown on Hard Knocks last year?
Yeah, somebody else told me that. I think he was, but I didn't watch it that closely. Another fan mentioned that, but
yeah, I remember Jaquan Hardy. He was a guy, and they do a nice job, and we'll talk about Hard Knocks when it gets underway again this year. Lions, maybe our buddy Deuce Staley will be prominently shown.
Hopefully, maybe he'll get a head coaching job if he's prominently shown.
There you go. Laid the groundwork. I remember Jaquan Hardy, and you don't. It's for me, it's an informational, but also an entertainment vehicle, and they do a pretty good job of producing that show and putting it together. You have a couple of guys that you hook into that are borderline to make the team guys that you either root for or root against. And Jaquan Hardy was a guy I kind of rooted for, and he was on the Cowboys roster last year, and he did play in that last game when all the subs got elevated for the Cowboys, had a good game. The Eagles picked them up off the scrap heap yesterday because they were a little light in the running back room. We're all just waiting for Jaquan Howard to be re-signed, and the Eagles have the luxury of reaching out and signing him whenever the hell they want because nobody else in the National Football League seems to like him as much as we do. Jaquan Hardy got a shot to make this team. I know he's not on your original 53, but had you known that, would you be editing?
Couple clarifications. Yeah, I did it before Jaquan Hardy. The Eagles have not officially signed Jaquan Hardy yet. He's coming in today. I can tell you his camp thinks they're going to sign. Now, Minnesota wanted him to come in for a workout, and I guess they're not to sign him. They wanted him to work out. And he gave an indication there that the Eagles were planning to sign him. But then the news got he's coming in for a workout, so he could still screw this thing up, number one. But I do think he's 225 pounds. They need that bigger back. We've been talking about it. We've been talking about Jaquan Howard. It makes sense to go with a younger guy who's healthy. As effective as Jordan Howard has been with this team, he's always hurt at this stage. He's clearly breaking down. And I think their sentiment, the Eagles' sentiment is, we joke about it here. Jody Mack, John McMullen, we could probably all get, I don't know, probably me, only 3.5, but average running back is going to get 4.5 yards a carry behind this offensive line. You might as well get the younger guy. So if he gets here and he signs, they need that big back presence. And we talked about, break glass in case of emergency with Jordan Howard. To have no obvious fourth running back, Kennedy Brooks, who I had on my first 53 just as a curveball, to be honest. This is not my official one. This is the start of camp. Jason Huntley, his path is a kick returner. And if he's going to be the kick returner, you got to get Jalen Reagor out of here somehow because the Eagles aren't cutting him. They might trade him, but they aren't cutting him. And to trade him, they need somebody to trade him to. So, there's a lot of hurdles for him making this team. If he gets here at 225 pounds, he could offer him something they don't have. Yeah, he could be an off-the-radar guy. And that's why I said, in this, why the first one before training camp, there are going to be names brought in, Jody. Might only be a couple, might be a trade. As I said, maybe Rager's out of here. There are going to be a couple tweaks and names you don't even know that are going to be on that final 53. So maybe Hardy's one of them.
You mentioned Huntley as a potential return guy. Yeah, he's not on your list. Nor is Britton Covey not on your list. Nor is Devin Allen not on your list. And these guys all could very well be on the practice squad, or at least 2 out of 3 of them would I think be guys that the Eagles would try and at least keep within the organization, if not on the 53. If you've got those 3 guys not on the roster, who are your return guys for week 1?
Jalen Reagor.
Oh, so you got, that's right. You still got Reagor here.
Yeah.
Both punts and kickoffs?
Both punts and kickoffs.
Is that going to work, J-Mac?
Well, he did it last year, but it didn't work. But, the Eagles did it. I will say he's got some explosiveness. Now, the problem is he makes bad decisions. He doesn't always catch the ball. And that's more important. But he did have, I think, a 30-yard punt return, a 40-yard kickoff return. They haven't had anybody else who can do that. So when he does get going, there can be some positives. I forget who we talked about this last week, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. You have this thought of him being there on September 11th, and what does that mean to the general manager? Is it more embarrassing to cut a 2020 first-round pick, take the financial medicine, which it's a lot, but in the large scale of things, this team has proven they'll eat dead money, $33 million of dead money for Carson Wentz. They'll eat dead money and keep Fletcher Cox and pay him $14 million on top of it. So They're not concerned about that part of it. So I kind of don't buy that anymore from the way they acted the past couple of years. So I start to think of myself, if it's an ego thing, isn't it worse that he's on the team and he's not really a part of the team, and you're trying to make him the kick returner? And, I mean, isn't that worse? Isn't that a worse look than just, out of sight, out of mind? Sure, you take some hits for 48 hours maybe, and all the stories are done. And then you go to week 2, Jody. What's week 2? Justin Jefferson coming in to Lincoln Financial Field. True. And then you have that dichotomy. He'll probably go for 150, even if the Vikings lose. And, people are going to be saying, and Jalen Reagor's just sitting there on the sidelines. How was that look for Howie Roseman? So, he should start thinking a little bit more in that direction, in my opinion. But he's going to be here. If they can't trade him, he's going to be here.
Here's my opinion and how I would handle it if Howie asked my advice. It comes down to answering one simple question. How much fear do you actually have that when you cut Jalen Reagor, he will land with another team, and while not live up to the level of where you picked him in the first round, if that happens, sorry, you just got poked in the eye. There's nothing you can do about it. But realistically, can he be better for someone else than he has been in his 2 years for you? If you believe that, and that worries you, and you think that if you cut him, then he's going to go somewhere else and put up better numbers he did for you, then you got to keep him, because you don't want that to happen. But if you have realistically come to an evaluation of his talent level and say, we just missed. We swung and we missed. The pitch is biased. It's in the catcher's mitt. We swung, we missed, and guess what? He's just not that good. He's not that good with us. He's not going to be that good with anybody else. Wash your hands, move on, get on with the rest of your life. That's what it comes down to, is your actual evaluation of the player. Not only for what he can do with your team, because you went out and got A.J. Brown, so there's less opportunities for the wide receivers, so he's going to have less of a chance to catch up, make up, prove that he was worthy of at least a day 2 pick rather than day 1 pick, whatever. You just have to evaluate the player and say, what would he do with?
Well, can I give you a third category, Jody?
Go ahead, yeah.
He's going to be better, because how could he be worse?
Oh, he can be worse.
But I don't know if he can be worse.
Oh, yeah, he can. He can absolutely be worse.
But what if he's a 4th receiver? Who cares? I mean, he's better than he was here. I mean, in a lot of ways, I compare it to the Sixers and Ben Simmons. And Ben, as much as I dislike him as a player, and I think he's so limited in certain aspects, he's still good in certain aspects.
Right.
And
he made all-star teams.
Yeah. And he can go somewhere and be effective and be good. but I advocated the Sixers moving on because it wasn't going to work here. It wasn't going to work here, period. Here. And Jalen Reagor's a change of scenery guy. I believe when he goes wherever he ultimately goes, whether it's this year, next year, he'll be better because it's hard for him to be worse. Now, I guess he can be worse, as you pointed out, but it's going to be hard. He's going to be better, but so what? To me, if I'm Howie Roseman, it's clear it's not working here, and that's all that matters to me. That's all that matters to me. Now, if he goes to Dallas and makes a play on occasion, well, yeah, that would hurt a little bit, but for different reasons, because it's a rival and people play it up and things like that. But in the bigger picture, it's not going to work here. So that's all that concerns me if I'm the GM.
But somebody's actually got to beat him out. And how many receivers are the Eagles going to actually carry? John put together his first list and had Jalen Reagor on it. So does that mean he's going to make this squad? I'm the president of the Greg Ward fan club, but I got enough of a look at what the Eagles thought of and the usage of Greg Ward last year with Hurts as their full-time quarterback. He just fell off the face of the earth. And if he's sticking around purely because he's a good veteran guy, and the Eagles don't have the need for that anymore. Last year with Reagor still young and them still crossing their fingers, holding out hope he could become better. Yeah, I could see where that was an added value. Rookie year for Devontae Smith. Now he's a second-year player, and A.J. Brown is here. I don't know that Greg Ward's going to be able to make this squad.
Well, the odds are probably against him. That's another one where I tried to go a little bit outside the box. My theory on that is, the practice squad is so big nowadays, 16. You can do whatever you want with these younger players. The Eagles, they're younger receivers. They can get them through waivers. Now, the one potential to that, and you've kind of brought it up in the past, if Devin Allen returns a kick, say, in the preseason, well, then maybe you got to think about keeping him on the 53. Yeah. Britton Kobe, a lot of excitement as a punt returner. As I said, you can get him through waivers.
I agree there.
Josh Hammonds of the world, John Hightower. So you already saw with John Hightower. You can get all these guys through waivers, put them on the practice squad if you want them. The Carrick Wheatballs, on and on and on. That's where I say, it's a little bit different to cut to 53 when the practice squad it works both ways. The practice squad is so big, you can also put veteran players on the practice squad now. So it's a little bit different from a strategy standpoint. And I don't see great developmental talent at receiver for the Eagles. I see a bunch of guys. And unless Devin Allen, as I said, shows somebody else something, I don't think you have to worry about getting any of those guys through waivers.
And here's where Howie Roseman's got a leg up. He knows what other teams were talking to Devin Allen, if any other teams were talking to Devin Allen. When the news came out that Devin Allen had signed with the Eagles, what my first question was? Who's Devin Allen?
Yeah,
I had no idea who the guy was.
Unless you're a track fan.
He played at Oregon. And yes, no, I'm not up on the latest world track rankings and or best in divisions and the like. So it came completely out of left field, and it's a surprise when I got the details of it and found, okay, yeah, you know what? This might not be a bad take a shot in the dark signing by the Eagles. Well, the Eagles had to sign him either as the only team with interest in him, or if there was another team, if his agent was shopping him around to the entire National Football League. I'm sure that he told Howie, listen, we've got interest from team A, B, C, D, and E, and F. So Howie should at least have those teams in his mind as to potential landing spots for Allen. If they have injury issues and or their kickoff or punt returner goes down, you might want to factor that in as to whether you decide to keep Devin Allen on your 53. He is John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. Tomorrow's the day, folks. Eagles back in camp. They'll just be reporting. John and his cohorts get grass time on Wednesday, the first true Eagle workout of the season. It's nice to have football back. It's also nice to get our buddy Paul Domowitch back into the mix. He will join us next here on Birds 365.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
7 on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Countdown is on to the start of the 2022 NFL season, and the Birds report tomorrow. We'll be leading up to it, talking about it, taking you through it, all the way up to the beginning of the regular season. We appreciate you streaming in at Birds 365. Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, and our buddy Paul Domwich, good enough to hop aboard to get this week off on the right foot for us. Johnny, if you don't mind, let me get the first question in here, because I don't think we've had Domo comment on this before. Paul Domwich, how moved, excited, out of your seat with excitement are you about the new Eagle black helmet?
Oh, man.
I'm glad he gave that one to Damo. I'm glad.
I had to take medication for the palpitations.
Sorry about that. Good.
Yeah. Do people not know they're just reaching into your back pocket and taking money? Now, hey, if you like it, fans, great. You know, if that's your thing, but just realize it's a money grab. It's not about looks. It's not about anything else. It's not about, I don't know, but to me, a lot of people don't realize that they're, they're just taking more money from you. But that's
John and I have gone down this road before, Damo. And neither one of us is moved by uniform changes. We kind of forget about them as soon as the game is over and done with. And we talked about it before. But some people, new Eagle fans, old Eagle fans, just love to talk about the new and changed uniform, jersey or helmet or whatever else. I kind of care about the football, not what they dress the players up as. But there are some Eagle fans and fans across and it's not just Eagles. Don't get me wrong. I'm not putting this on Eagle fans. This is every fan across the National Football League. They get nuts about these uniform changes. And John is exactly right. It's all about putting money in the owner's pockets. It doesn't grab you either, huh? You're with McMullen and I hear that you don't really care what they look like when they make plays.
You know, it's amazing though. You don't see this in other sports. The fans getting excited when the Phillies make a change to their uniform top, or I don't know.
I think it's a big deal in soccer with the kits. They have different kits. I do think people got a little bit upset about the NBA when they started putting advertising on there, which makes sense. And then I always remember the Charles Barkley quote when the Sixers changed their uniform to this garish. It was ugly, but and Charles said it looks like they gave a crayon to my daughter and came up with that, which I thought was great. That's the kind of stuff I like. But from a standpoint, if I ask you, Dama, what did the Eagles wear in Tampa Bay during the playoff loss? I don't know. I got to go back and look at the video. I got 5 minutes after the game ended. I would have to look at the highlights. I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
I can't remember what color they wore for the Super Bowl in Minneapolis.
Oh, either can I. I would have to look at the highlights. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, which I'm proud of, by the way.
Damo, Johnny Mac came up with his very initial first hope at 53 men to make the Eagles before the season started, but he did so before the Eagles signed Jaquan Hardy, and they haven't even officially signed Jaquan Hardy yet, but a bunch of reports out there have him very interested in, and he's going to report today, and we'll see if he walks out with a contract. Are you one of those guys who believes, no, I'm sorry, once you've played for the Dallas Cowboys, you're tainted, that you should never put on that Eagle green, Kelly green, midnight green, black with trim, whatever color uniform the Eagles are wearing, you should never wear it if you once wore the Dallas Cowboys star on your helmet. You one of those?
Well, you guys are asking me some really tough questions this morning.
Yes. We're starting out with the top one.
I'm not one of those, Jody.
Yeah,
good for you. And those Eagle fans, I will signify the Eagle fans specifically. They annoy me.
Yeah, that said, I don't know where Hardy fits in here. I mean, they clearly want a power back this year, but I think he's going to have competition, so we'll see.
Yeah, it makes some sense, Damo, because I do think, he's 225 pounds, if we're to believe. I did see when he worked out from the mighty football powerhouse of Tippin University. He was coming out, he listed at 212. Now he's 225. But it always made some sense to me that the Eagles would bring in a younger big back with no injury history versus Jordan Howard, because let's face it, I mean, he's always banged up. And to a certain degree, with this offensive line, everybody's going to get 4.5 yards per carry. So to me, it makes some sense if they go younger at sort of that big back need.
Yeah, and I think if they have a power back that can be efficient in third and short, it's also going to make Jalen Hurts' ability to keep and on some of those runs more effective. When they have to pay attention to a guy like Hardy or whomever on that, between the tackles, it's going to loosen things up for Hurts if he does keep the ball. So I think that goes into their thinking with why they want, definitely want a power back that can be effective this year.
To follow up real quick, sorry, Jody. With Jalen, because of Jalen's effectiveness running the ball, doesn't he help that back as well? More than normal. And in other words, Boston Scott's great at it. But, there's seems to be this, he's so small. He's not really small. He's short. Why not just let Boston Scott have that job? It's a little think outside the box. I mean, it was effective last year. Jalen helps with the spacing. Am I crazy there or not?
No, I mean, I think they always will have their doubts about a guy his size, but he's proven that he can do the job. I think they just want as many options going into training camp as possible. I mean, if Boston Scott shows in the preseason that he can do that, we may not see guys like Jalen Hardy for, once the season starts. So I don't know. I think they just want to keep their options open.
Speaking of between the tackles and keeping their option open, you think that there is an actual competition for right guard, or does Isaac Seumalo either have to get hurt or lose the job to not be the Eagles' right guard starter?
I don't think it's they're throwing the ball up in the air and best man wins. I think it's Seumalo's job to lose. But I don't think they're confident because of the fact that how many games he's missed over the last 2 seasons, whether he's going to be able to stay healthy even this summer. I think they want to see what happens with with Elise Frank, whether it's completely healed, whether he can stay healthy. Plus, Driscoll is a good player. But I think in an ideal world, they would like to have, if Seumalo can stay healthy and play like he did before he got hurt, they've got themselves an ideal right guard to give them basically a 5 men up front with no weaknesses, and then you've got the ideal swingman, inside outside guy in Driscoll. I think that's what they would like. That's if they could paint a picture, that's the way it would look. But it all depends on Seumalo.
They are so deep on the offensive line compared to other teams. I mean, you had Cam Jurgens in the mix, and there's going to be, I always call it a ramp-up period, startup cost, whatever you want to call it, for any rookie player. But he's got starting-level traits. There's no question about that. And even Suo Opeta, I mean, he played last year, and I've seen worse offensive linemen. I see him every week in the NFL. I'm not trying to say he's the Tesla stock that Jason Kelsey called him, but he didn't embarrass himself. They're 9 deep at least. And that's with Brett Toth not being healthy. He proved he could play a little bit. It's pretty amazing how deep they are.
It leaves Howie with I wouldn't call it a dilemma, but he's seen what you can do, what happens, when people start to go down and you don't have depth. So I don't think he wants to shed depth here. He'd rather be, overstocked than understocked. But he's going to get feelers during training camp when people go down for Andre Dillard. For a couple of other people, it'll be interesting to see what his reaction is. I mean, does he still want more draft picks next year and the year after? Is he, how would he look at that? Or would he rather just hang on to Dillard in case a worst case scenario happens and, Jordan Mailata's back goes out again or something like that? So my guess is that he's not going to be quick to get rid of anybody unless there's just an offer he can't refuse.
Damo, I asked you about the competition, non-competition at right guard. But there are a couple of positions on this Eagle team as of right now that there is a legit competition. I just don't think it's at right guard. But there are some that you can say, well, it's close enough that the better man should win. But how do you go about determining the better man? Johnny referenced our buddy Reuben Frank's column in NBC Sports. He's guesstimating the Eagles are going to have 19 whole hours of prep time going into the first game of the season with the CBA restricted amounts of time that you can do, the Eagles' own choosing. How do you really decide? I keep asking this to John and everybody else who comes on. How important are those 4 joint practices that they're going to have this year? Because off last year, it seems like that's the season was decided in those joint practices. Is that where the actual Eagle battles for positions and snaps and everything else are going to be won or lost?
Well, the interesting thing about these joint practices this year are that they're late. I believe the last game, which you get that close to the end. You don't want these guys going out there and getting too physical because you're afraid of injuries at that point, let alone at the beginning. So, I don't even know how revealing those joint practices are going to be as far as deciding, any lingering issues as far as who's going to start. I mean, my sense is he already knows who he wants. If the people he believes are going to be his starters stay healthy, I think it's already been pretty much decided.
How about the rookies, though, Damo? Because there are rookies that are expected to step in. You talked about Juergens. He's not. That's fine. He's a luxury pick. Although that's what they said last year about Landon Dickerson. You never know. And all of a sudden you got to throw him into the deep end of the pool. Jordan Davis is expected to play. Nakobe Dean. Jody's got him in the Pro Bowl week 1. How do you get ready? How do you get ready as a rookie with 5 OTA practices and 19 hours over the summer? How can are we expecting too much out of rookies, at least in Philadelphia?
Well, you look around the league, and I think the spring has really hurt development of young players, particularly quarterbacks. I say that, and then you see people like Justin Herbert and Joey Burrow do what they do. But for the most part, what they've done to the spring isn't good in my mind, and isn't good in the minds of a lot of people, including coaches. But it's what they gave up. It's what the owners gave up in exchange for things like an extra game, basically for more money. I think they're more concerned with a guy like Nakobe Dean. I think they're banking on the fact that if he knows what he's doing, he can play. So they just hope that all the mental reps they've given him and will give him this spring, that he'll know what he's supposed to do, and then they'll put him out there. They'll find the situations early on that he's comfortable with. With Dean, one thing that's going to be interesting from my standpoint with him is his ability to blitz. I don't think they've had I can't remember the last time they've had a linebacker with his blitzing ability. Now,
probably Michael would be close. Michael could blitz, but they didn't do it.
Right. Yeah. Now, is Gannon going to blitz much? I think he's going to use the weapons he's got, and he's got some impressive weapons with Davis and Dean, because you can move Jordan Davis all over the place. He is not just a run plugging nose tackle that you're going to sit down there, in the one gap and for him to stop the run on first down. This is a guy I think you can move outside in pass rush situations, because what tackle or tight end, when he gets going, and he ran I was checking his 10 splits at the combine.
Yeah,
they were as good as anybody, any defensive end.
Yeah.
So you put a guy with his power coming off the edge, running into an offensive tackle or a poor tight end that's going to try to keep him from the quarterback, you're going to have some problems. So, I think this guy is, you can really, Gannon's got a lot of people he can move around. He can go big. He can go big outside. He can go, there's just so much, is he going to play Hassan Reddick off the balls some? Is he going to move him, have him up in the line of scrimmage all the time? These are the questions that are going to kind of be problems for an offense that they're going to be playing against this year. And I think it's going to make that defense really good.
Just to set the record straight, yours truly did come up just short of putting Nakobe Dean in the Pro Bowl. What I did do was I thought that he would be one of the top 25 players on the Eagles this year, which John McMullen did not in his preseason top 25. So
it's a deep team. It's a deep team.
So we have the record straight.
I'm sorry, Joe.
Jalen Hurts. We talked about it last week. Haven't got a chance to get your take on it. There are quarterback contracts being done around the league. Kyler Murray signed his. At some point, Lamar Jackson's going to sign his, and I think it will be above and beyond what Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson got, not in guaranteed money for comparison to Deshaun Watson, but I think he'll be over $230 million plus dollars. The high tide raises all boats, which means Jalen Hurts' price is going up and up and up and up and up. Now, there's nothing the Eagles can do about it right now, because you couldn't give him a contract extension if they wanted to, because it's against the rules in the National Football League. But Howie Roseman's got to be clocking this. He's got to be on top of this. How much will the price of quarterback play across the National Football League factor into how the Eagles evaluate the season Jalen Hurts has?
Well, Howie's always been smart about this, in the fact that he knows the price is only going to go up. Lamar Jackson still is the next guy that's going to sign. And you got Burrow and Herbert, who, unless their teams end up waiting until their option year and just keep this thing lingering because they can't afford to pay what they're going to be asking, the quarterback price is going to go up. Now, the big question here is, what kind of year is Jalen going to have? If we're assuming he has a terrific year, then the ball's in Howie's court. Jalen's not going to command even, let's assume he has a very good year, but not a sensational year. He's not going to command what Kyler Murray just got.
No.
There's not enough of there's just,
let me interrupt. What if he does? What if the Eagles win 11 games, win the division, and win that first playoff round, and then play very competitively in the next round? May or may not win. Jalen Hurts plays well in a game. They lose because of defense. He's got one playoff win, which would surpass Kyler Murray, who doesn't have one yet. Why couldn't he jump to Kyler Murray's level?
Well, let's keep in mind they had a quarterback named Carson Wentz who was playing at an MVP
level. So Carson's going to cost Jalen money, huh?
Well, I'm just saying you cannot.
He might.
On the guy. You cannot make him a Hall of Famer if he has a terrific year. Do you want more proof before you pay him that kind of money? Before you guarantee him $160 million or whatever Kyler Murray's been guaranteed?
So you think they'd ask him to play on the last year of his rookie deal?
I think they'd make him an offer. I just don't know.
Okay.
How he's creative and it's going to be up to how he's going to have it. This is why they pay him the big bucks. He's going to have to decide after this year let's assume Jalen has a very good year. Well, now it's Howie's turn to say, did we just see the real thing? Is he just going to keep getting better going forward? Because that's been his history, that he's improved every year he's played the game, or has he hit a ceiling? That's, he's going to have to decide that. If he decides that he's still going to keep getting better and they've played well this year and they go deep into the playoffs, he may be brave and say, we'll give you a lot of money, Jalen, here's what we're offering you. And then the ball's back in his court. So I don't know. I just think it's to be determined right now. I don't think we know how this is going to play out until we see what kind of year Jalen has.
To kind of further that Jalen discussion, Damo, Nick Ciriani did his embargo session with us that we can now talk about. But but since he's got here, he says when he talks about quarterbacks, he says there's four traits he looks at: accuracy, decision making, movement skills, extending plays off schedule, stuff like that, and arm strength. Jalen checks two of those boxes from the Eagles' perspective. Obviously, the off schedule stuff he's phenomenal at. And arm strength, which surprises people. The Eagles think he's fine. And any issues you might see are involved with not getting the ball out quick enough on deep throws and things like that, trusting his reads, things of that nature. Now, recently, he still says accuracy is number one, and that's a concern. But he's starting to think that the off-schedule stuff is right there with decision-making as far as importance with this particular player. And he said, I think his quote was, sometimes you don't know what you have until you have it. And it's that spectacular. Should the Eagles just start forgetting about this, try to make him into a pocket quarterback, try to get the football, try to throw the football, and just take advantage of what he does well? Would they think about that? Is that worth $35 million to them? And you think Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman are too? No, we need Joe Burrow. We need Justin Herbert. Or will they go, and start thinking, well, what he does well, he does really well. So let's accentuate that. Could you see the Eagles going down that path?
To a certain degree, yeah. I don't think they want him to be a pocket passer. This isn't, and again, go back to Wentz, where, they were so afraid after the ACL of him getting hurt that's basically what they wanted him to do. Jalen Hurts, and I think I said this last time I was on, running is always going to be a critical part of his game, just like it is with Lamar Jackson, just like it is with Kyler Murray. This is today's quarterback. And Jalen's got, Jalen's unlike Lamar, and that, Lamar's a make you miss kind of guy. Jalen's more of a fullback, which is good because he's more durable to be able to do that. That said, What I'm interested, one of the things I'm going to be interested in seeing, and I do think the off schedule stuff is going to continue to be important. But he needs to stay when he's, on plays when he's in the pocket. He needs to keep that clock running and know when he's exhausted, when he needs to get out of there. But he can't leave too quickly, and that's the biggest struggle for a guy that with his running ability is that at the first sign of problems, you want to get out of there, and he can't quite do that. But one of the things that concerned me last year was he couldn't go to his left.
Yeah.
And teams started taking away his right. I mean, they would have that either a linebacker or someone rushing wide so that when he would go to his right, he might get outside, but it would take him an extra 20 yards to get there because they weren't giving him the quick ability to get outside. And when he would go to his left, he just could not be accurate.
Tampa killed him with that. Tampa, great game plan from that perspective.
Now, he's worked out. I don't know which quarterback trainers he's worked with out in California. Most cases, it's I don't know that it's all that beneficial. Coaches would rather they worked in the with their coaches at the training facility, but they can't do that until April. So, I credit him for at least going and trying to improve his mechanics. Is he going to be any better at that? I don't know. And I think that's going to be a critical component for him this year, his ability to run to the left and throw, because if he can keep defenses honest going left, it's also going to make him better going to his right, where he's much more accurate. There's just a lot of questions right now we don't know. Questions about how much better he's gotten at things like that, how Nick's going to, where RPOs figure in this year. So we don't know, we just don't know a lot about this offense until we see it out in the field. And even then, we're probably not going to see a whole lot until the season starts.
Damo, one of the most intriguing players for the Eagles this upcoming year, at least for me, is going to be A.J. Brown. And we know that the Eagles gave up a lot to get him, gave him a big contract, expect him to produce here in Philadelphia. And 2 games in, 4 games in, 6 games in, 8 games in, we're going to be able to check the numbers and evaluate for ourselves how big A.J. Brown's addition has been. But then there's the other aspect of it, of how a player handles himself and the demeanor that he shows. We don't know A.J. Brown. He wasn't here before. So we're going to have to watch him and evaluate him. Sometimes when players get that huge new contract and that big payday, they go, all right, I'm good. And they just go out and do their job. Some guys make it a challenge. Now I'm making this I got to raise my game. Different guys handle those type of deals differently. How much does the demeanor from A.J. Brown mean to you? Are you a guy who just says, hey, hand me the stat sheet after the game, I'll be able to tell you what kind of player he is? Or do you look into it that much more as to how a guy goes about doing his business in a season, specifically a new guy like A.J. Brown?
Well, 2 things with him. One, I look at the offense he came from. I mean, he played in an offense that basically was revolved around Derrick Henry. So he's used to an offense where he's not going to get, 180 targets. So, he's making a lot of money, and I think he's happy about that. I also think the leadership ability of the quarterback is going to play into the happiness of the wide receivers if they don't get the touches maybe that they think. I think Jalen has the ability and the respect of these guys that they wouldn't squawk if they're, they'd come and talk to him and say, hey, I think something, I think I can get open on this play, things like that. But I don't think you're going to see any, OJ, some Beckham stuff, things like that, where you got people in people's face and complaining to the coaches, like Antonio Brown used to do. So I don't think there are going to be problems, Jody, is a short answer to that.
He is Paul Domowitz. Read him at the 33rdteam.com. He's also going to be back doing the stats package for JAKIBsports.com. Hopefully some Dick Vermeil stuff at the Hall of Fame. Domo, have fun out there as well. I'll leave it on defense, because one of the frustrating things I hear, pet peeve of mine, is the Eagles are going to be 3-4, 4-3. They're going to be neither. They're going to be multiple fronts. You kind of mentioned it a little bit with Jordan Davis. They have the Sam linebackers working with the defensive ends together with Jeremiah Washburn. They've shown all the signs. Why does that trope die so hard? Why is everyone so concerned about 4-3 or 3-4, especially in the modern NFL when you have a nickel corner on the field 65% of the time anyway?
Good question, John. I mean, sub packages are like 65, 70, even 75% of what people play now. So, it really doesn't matter what they play on first down. Like I said earlier, I mean, I think what Gannon wants to do this year is not have anybody be able to characterize this defense. I think he's got the versatility now to do so many different things with this unit, particularly up front and with the linebackers. That I think that's going to be one of that defense's strengths this year.
All right, I need a big prediction out of you here, Damo, and I hope you get to join John and get some grass time this year. So I'm asking your opinion on other people's opinions as well. It never fails. Every year there is one receiver, and when I say receiver, it could be a tight end, a wide receiver, a back coming out of the backfield, but there is one guy who is new to the Philadelphia Eagles, rookie, brought in, free agent, whatever else, who in shorts and a T-shirt makes a couple of plays and the fever kicks in, that this guy is going to be the greatest receiver ever in the National Football League. And we used to be able to put the blame on the fans because they'd be out there at Lehigh and, oh, my God, did you see player X and fill in the blank? Now it's just down to you media guys. And some overstate it, and the fans catch it, and they run with it, and I don't need to name names, do I? Nelson Aguilar, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside.
I forgot about those. Go to Paul Turner. The Paul Turner Award.
Paul Turner Award, exactly right.
Femi Moma. Remember Femi? 6'7", Femi Moma. Yeah, Carlton Agudosi. He was one of my favorites. Yeah, it's always a receiver, Dama. Always a receiver.
Who is this year's receiver? Newbie on the block, not been in Eagle camp before, that is going to make one or two plays and somebody's going to send him off to Canton. Of the new Eagle receivers this year, which one is most likely to achieve that?
Well, Jody, I'm not going to pick a new guy. I'm going to pick a guy that people have basically put in the ground.
Really?
Yeah, do it.
JJ.
Oh, I thought you were going Jalen. I thought you were going to give Jalen right here.
I wasn't out to the OTAs, but John tells me he's put on about, since the move to tight end.
Yeah, JJ. Yeah.
15 pounds. I think he's going to make this team as one of the tight ends.
Wow. Yeah, he's 237 listed at JJ. Up from 225.
Don't give up on him yet. He makes a few plays early, gets some confidence. Never can tell.
We shall see. Yeah,
they need a backup tight end. They really do.
He would be the first. Well, no, Paul Turner actually did have a couple of years. He was a guy, and then he died down, and then came back in the next spring. He was the same guy again. So JJ, this could be a second time this happens for JJ because they well overstated what he was when he was a rookie too. But new position, new possibility. Like it, Damo.
This might help me get a positive letter from his mother. His
mother's nice, but that picture came out when she was at training camp during this rookie season with the parasol. And JJ was standing on. That's not fair, though. That's not fair.
Some of you nice guys cut him some slack for that. Good for you too. Damo, you are heading out to Canton?
I am. Yes, next Wednesday.
You don't have to drive with Warndell, do you?
Yes, I do. And I'm looking forward to it, though.
He'll talk your ear off. That's for damn sure. Damo, great stuff always. And if we don't have you on, we'll wait till after you get back from Canton so you can share all your insights from that with us here on Birds 365. Thanks for sharing today.
You're welcome. Anytime, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Tom.
Which will be contributing for us this year on JAKIBSports.com, and you can also still read them at the 33team.com. All right, Mac and Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald. We got an hour and change yet to play with you today, so don't even think about streaming on out. Keep it here on Birds 365.
Go for the polls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Appreciate you streaming on in with us here on Birds 365. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. You got a like button there, Johnny Mac? Can you hit like? Do they even count our likes, or are we officially eliminated from doing so?
That's not fair, so I don't do it. I do like the show, though, Jody. But yeah, I can like the show.
Well, then I think you and I both need to smash that like button a little bit more often. We are asking you guys, you Birds fans, getting ready for an upcoming season. You check us out on the mornings. You're getting ready for the year. Well, if you, as long as you're streaming in, you might as well hit that like button. We're not charging anything for it, but it helps with our algorithm and the whole YouTube thing. I don't understand. I'm sorry. I appreciate the fact that there is a way that people can track how much they do.
You
or
like
don't
the show? It's the show for the hardcore Eagles fan. I always say, if you like the show, like it, share it, subscribe it, and you will continue to see the show. So you'll help the show. So do it. It's free.
Right. Doesn't cost you a damn penny. So, and you could lend a helping hand to your buddies, Mac and Mac. And here's the reason why you should like the show today. Johnny Mac, I was checking this out over the weekend, and I didn't realize, when does the Eagles schedule come out? April?
They have the whole it back to May. Yeah,
they push it back to May this year. Usually it's April. Now they've got May, but it does always make me smile and laugh that they have now turned it into an entire day of programming on the NFL Network. The big reveal.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And the amount of conversation that can be struck by the fact that a schedule came out. Again, turning back the clock, and this is something that has not only changed for the better, they've taken it to an outrageous level. But there used to be like a release on the Associated Press That's how you found out each team's schedule.
Yeah.
There wasn't this big reveal and hours of network television and websites.
Well, everything's like that, Jody.
Oh, makes me laugh.
Everything is like that in the NFL now. And you're right. I mean, you know, you can go back to the NFL draft when it was over the weekend in 2 days and it was 12 rounds. And, you know, at the end, nobody knew what was going on. You'd wait for the newspaper the next day and see, hey, who was the 11th round pick? And nobody cared. Yeah, it's amazing. But the schedule release has always amazed me even more because, yeah, you're only talking about logistics. You're talking about dates and times. You already knew who your favorite team was playing. So basically, you're only putting dates to – and for people that travel, it's a big deal because you need that information. But for the average fan that's just going to sit and watch on television, yeah, it's amazing how excited they get over that schedule release.
And here's what I was attempting to get to, and I'm sorry I got sidetracked just talking about the magnitude of the schedule release. It makes me laugh. I went back and re-looked at the Eagles schedule because there are a couple of things each and every single year that I look at that are my beliefs from watching 40 plus years of the NFL and watching teams and how they comp to each other. This year, the Eagles schedule, they play, of course, their 6 in-division games. I right now think they have a comparable roster to the Dallas Cowboys, maybe even slightly better. I like the way you stated, Johnny Mac, from 2 to 53. Oh, the Eagles are better. Dak Prescott compared to Jalen Hurts, does that balance the scale enough? We'll find out. But the Cowboys and Eagles, I think, are a cut above the Commanders and the Giants in the division. So if you believe that the Cowboys and the Eagles are very comparable roster-wise, I would always rather play that team home first before playing them on the road. If you got to play them twice in division, there's a team out there that you think you're either slightly better than or even with, give me the home game first. The Eagles have the home game first. They have Dallas early home, week 6, and then later in the season in Dallas. So that could have gone either way. You never know which way that's going to go when the schedule comes out. I think it went the favorable way for the Eagles. They get the Cowboys home first. If you think you're better than the other team that you've got to play twice in the season, I want to play on the road first. I want the first game to be on the road and then get my home game second because I win that road game because I'm just better than them. And then we're going to roll in the later half of the season. They play at Washington and at New York, both teams on the road first, and then get them at home later. I think that's the better of the two scenarios. So the entire division, the 6 games, I think, happen to roll out schedule-wise advantageously for the Eagles, which is very good. They played the NFC North this year, correct? The Packers.
Yes, which is good because it's a bad division.
Right. Who would you consider the top 2 teams in the NFC North as of right now, John?
Green Bay and Minnesota.
Where did the Eagles play those 2 teams?
Both at Lincoln Financial Field.
That's a good thing. If you're playing the tougher 2 teams, you want those 2 teams at home. The other 2 teams, sorry, Lions fans, sorry, Bear fans, you'd rather get them on the road because you just think you have a better roster and you can overcome home field advantage by those 2 teams. So that division played well for the Eagles this year. In the AFC, they're playing the NFC South. This is the only one that didn't work out perfectly, but the most important thing of it, I think, did. Who's the best team in the AFC South, Johnny Mac?
I still think it's Tennessee, but some people would say Indianapolis, but I would say Tennessee.
As would I. Do they have to go to Tennessee this year?
No, they are coming to Lincoln Financial Field.
That would be correct. Lincoln Financial Field is where they get the toughest team. Would I like to get the Colts at home as well? If you got, like in the NFC North, we got the 2 best teams both coming in. I would agree with you. Tennessee and the Colts are the 2 best teams. Yeah, I would like to see. Plus, well, maybe not. What happens if they were coming here and Nick Foles came into the game after seeing his statue outside and comes in when Matt Ryan goes down in the first quarter and does the whole off the bench thing to the Eagles rather than
I think the Eagles would be happy if they got to play Nick Foles wherever.
Do you think they'd be okay with that, huh?
Yes.
All right. That's the only game that didn't go. If you wanted the perfect schedule laid out, and I've laid it out for you, and I think it's gone perfectly through the first 10 games that I mentioned, and then we go to the NFC.
Well, I'm only going to disagree on 1 point with you, Jay.
Go ahead, please.
1 point. You're right. This is an easy schedule. Basically, almost all the good teams you play on the road. Couple, at Arizona, you mentioned Indy. The second Dallas game, because of the spot, I do not like it all. I do not like it at all. Third consecutive road games, Christmas Eve in Dallas, Arlington, to be specific. I do not like that spot. That's it. That's the only thing I look at on this schedule. Even the 3-game road, and I don't like to call them trips because they're not really trips in the NFL. Sometimes you stay out in the West Coast. But a 3-game road swing, which is really difficult. It's the Giants and the Bears who are terrible. And you could argue who's better. I don't know. 6 pence, half dozen, whatever. But at Dallas on December 24th as the third consecutive road game, I do not like that spot. That is a very, very difficult spot.
That is very fair from you. Maybe I got to take my Eagle color glasses off, but I don't know why. I'm just feeling Merry Christmas, Philadelphia, a re-air of the Jeff Garcia line as Jalen Hurts comes off the field that day. Yeah. All right. Maybe I'm being a homer and maybe I'm just trying to think it into happening. I'm sounding like Lonzo Ball here. We shall see. But that's a good point. If you're going to be 3 straight road games, that last one is the toughest. And sure enough, it'll probably be the biggest game of the entire year for the Eagles. We'll see if where they and the Cowboys sit standing wise when they get there. Here's the let me finish off the overall schedule because we got 14 games deep. And I looked at this. I said, no, I'd probably prefer it the other way around. But then I thought about it even more. I said, no, this might be okay. They play 2 games against NFC opponents that are determined by where they finished in the standings. Who were the teams that finished in the other 2 divisions, not the division that they're playing en masse, but the other 2 teams that finished in the same slot that they did. And that would be second place, which would include the Saints and the Cardinals. Again, which of the 2 teams do you think are going to be better? And you'd rather get the better of the 2 teams at home? Well, even though I like the Saints more coming into the season than you like the Saints, I have to give the Cardinals the nod because they were the better team last year and they got their quarterback signed. But here's the good news about that. If you're going to play Arizona this year and you're going to play them either at home or on the road, you want to play them at the start of the season because DeAndre Hopkins, as of right now, is suspended for the first 6 games of the year. Now, that hasn't been completely adjudicated, and there's speculation that he's going to appeal and that they may decrease the amount of – if they only decrease it from 6 to 5, well, then the 5th game of the season is Eagles at the Cardinals. So that means Hopkins would still be out of the lineup. That's a damn big player who will not be playing for the Cardinals. As of right now, he will not be playing against the Eagles this year. We'll see if it changes between now and the time when that game rolls around. But that's a major plus for the Eagles, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's a really good player, obviously. Really explosive offense, especially out there. So that will help the Eagles. That will be the first game, though, that, if you're going to ask me, I gave you the toughest spot by far. If you're going to force me to pick the second toughest spot, it would be at Arizona in week 5 for this particular reason. It's the first time they're going to be underdogs, number one. It's the first time where people are going to think they're not the best team on the field. Now, I don't know. Minnesota, I don't know what they're going to be. They could be really good. They could be really bad, literally. I mean, it's rare where you have a team that could go and directly diverge it. So maybe they're a little bit better than people are going to expect. But week 2, nobody's going to know that anyway. But week 5, after you have Washington, Jacksonville, you have Detroit, as you mentioned, week 1. That's the first step up in competition to a team that's a legitimate playoff contender, playoff threat on the road. That's probably that would be a logical loss to me. And it would be one where we went down wins and losses, and that's one where I would say that's a logical loss.
All right, here's man, I got the eagle colored glasses on big time today. You just said that the 4 previous games prior to the Eagles having to go in Arizona and take on the Cardinals, chances are they're going to be favored 4 for 4. And if you're favored, you should win the game. And I'm not predicting 4-0, but 4-0 is a possibility for this team if they just win the games they're supposed to win. Check out the Cardinals' first 4 games. Home against the Chiefs, at Vegas and the Raiders, home against the Rams, and at Carolina.
That's tough.
I think they're underdog in their first 3 games.
Yeah.
They'll be an underdog even though they're home against Kansas City. At Vegas, Vegas won 10 games last year too, so I think they'll be an underdog there. And then they got the world champion Rams in game number 3. If you go by underdog, you win your underdog game, you lose your underdog games, you win your favorite games. Cards are going to be 1-3. Eagles are going to be either 3-1 or 4-0.
Yeah, who knows? They might be
the
favored.
Eagles are an underdog when they go to Carolina.
Yeah, they might be favored if it shakes out that way. But you can also turn it, if you want to turn it, as the Cardinals will be desperate at that point.
Good point.
Now maybe it goes in a negative direction. Maybe the snowball starts going downhill. But you can also have the wounded animal. You know, if they're desperate, they might come out like gangbusters. So you could spin that with some Eagles colored glasses and vice versa.
You know what would determine that for me, Johnny Mac? Can they buy into the wounded animal? Woe is us. Let's rally as a group. Let's get this thing done together. The coach. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't like the coach. You know,
I know you don't. That's why I'm going down that road here. For that to happen, for that to work, the coach has to be the guy to pull that squad together and rally the troops. You got faith that the Cardinal coach can do that?
No. To me, it would be just a talent perspective. Either the players, do it on their own, and that's why I can go in a very negative direction. But no, I'm not a Cliff Kingsbury fan. Who put Cliff Kingsbury as like the 4th best coach in football? There was one of those lists. I forget.
Yes. Had him ranked unbelievably high this year. Who was that?
Yeah.
It wasn't Pro Football Focus, was it?
I don't know. But whoever it is, I'll try to look it up, deserves ridicule and scorn. That is a bad football coach. Bad NFL football coach. I hate, he knows more about football than me. So I hope people understand criticism comes at the NFL level.
I'm not quite as down on him as you are, but I'm not a big fan either. I think he's got a couple of strong suits, and then I think he's got a couple of shortcomings too that people overlook just because he had the kind of success that he did at the collegiate level. Short-term success. One like
very short-term. He didn't even have great success at the collegiate level. It was one of the weirdest hires really ever.
One more quickie.
Cone, by the way, says it was Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was, which surprised
number 4 overall. Number 4 overall. You got guys going in the Hall of Fame, right? You got Bill Belichick, you got Andy Reid, you got Mike Tomlin, you got Pete Carroll. Those are 4 Hall of Fame coaches right there. Right there.
And
off the top of my head.
And your boy Shanahan, who you think can compete with any of them.
I love Kyle.
I know you do.
Kyle.
All right, last thing before we punch up our next guest, and that's going to be Zach Berman of The Athletic, who's going to jump aboard with us. Report out of ESPN. You're a Jeremy Fowler guy? You think he does a good job inside the NFL?
Good job.
As do I. I think Fowler's good. He reported over the weekend that he thinks it's highly unlikely that Jesse Bates will be traded, that his sources tell him that the Bengals have no desire to trade Bates, have not shopped Bates, are not planning on shopping Bates, the fact that they threw the franchise tag on him. He has refused to sign it. He hasn't shown up for any of their offseason work. We'll find out this week when the Bengals open up camp whether he's going to show. If he doesn't show, there's anything the Bengals can do about it because he's not truly under contract.
No.
So you can't fine him. You can't take chunks out of his check because there's no check to be taken chunks out of because he's not under contract yet. He has to sign the franchise tag first. So if he wants, he can sit out and not do anything and not show up at camp. And then 2 days before the season starts, he can come in and say, all right, I'll sign now. And there's nothing the Bengals can do about it. But there's also nothing they can do about potentially trading him to another team and giving that team a chance to redo his contract. His contract is locked in for this year.
Yeah, and by the way, they can't redo his contract.
Right.
Team, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the complications to trading for him as well. But obviously, you can negotiate, Jody. In other words, if the Eagles wanted to trade it for, he wants to be here. He just signed his franchise tender. They'd agree, and they'd sign it and then trade it to the Eagles, which, by the way, the Eagles don't even have the space to fit that under their cap right now. They would have to send some players back, and the Bengals would want draft picks. Kind of explained all this stuff before. Very unlikely to happen. You never say never with Howie. If he thinks they're that close to being a Super Bowl champ, he can make some moves and he can do some things and fit them under the cap. But it's very unlikely because, one, Cincinnati wants him.
Right.
And that's probably the end game is he sits out camp, gets extra few weeks of vacation, which doesn't matter anyway. 19 hours of practice, who cares? Shows up the week before week one, and he plays on the franchise tag. That's probably what's going to happen.
Right. The first step of the whole process, if anybody wants to believe he could or will be traded, Cincinnati has to want to do it.
Yeah.
And according to Jeremy Fowler, they've given no indication that that's what they're going to do. They're going to go a little hard line on him and go, well, you know, when we're supposed to start camp, we'll be like, what the hell is the motel that leaves a light on for you?
Motel 6.
Motel 6. They'll be Motel 6. We'll leave a light on for you, Jesse.
Yeah.
No, we can't force you to come in any earlier, but the light will be on for you when you show. Yeah. And oh, by the way, it will be on because we're not turning it off and trading you. So for those out there, Eagle fans, that are hoping against hope that the one place that the Eagles did not significantly upgrade, they kind of held their own ground at safety this year. Bates would be that significant upgrade. Not happening. And not because of the Eagles' unwillingness to create the cap space to get him. I just don't. I'm with Fowler. I don't think I've been saying this all along. I don't think the Bengals are trading him.
No, I agree. And I also snicker at the Eagles fans who think you can give all the players you don't want for a 25-year-old second team
Andre Dillard, Jalen Reagor, and a third. We'll get you Jesse Bates.
Or throw in Derek Barnett. We'll get you Jesse Bates for a team that wants draft picks and a 25-year-old second team All-Pro.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't work that way.
No, it does not. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We're your Mac and Mac Birds 365 guys. One of the best who covers the Eagles on a day-in, day-out basis. We'll be sharing grass time with John McMullen shortly within the next couple of days. Zach Berman of The Athletic scheduled to jump aboard with us next here on Birds 365.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
One, as in game, the Eagles report to training camp. The 2022 season gets underway before we know it. All right, let's get underway here with one of our favorite buddies. He does a great job covering the Birds. He does so for The Athletic. That would be Zach Berman, looking good, looking well tanned, looking ready for grass time. How's your summer been, Zach?
It's been counting down until this Wednesday, so it's going well.
Excited, Zach? I know you're excited.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Like
Any
Christmas
day with
Eve.
football is better than a day without football.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, let me go here first, and I will defend myself ahead of time. And unlike my buddy James Solberry, not a stupid question, at least in my opinion. But you guys can go ahead and tell me if
Zach,
it is. When I ask it, Zach, let's say Wednesday. When you get down there, it just so happens that Zach Berman of The Athletic is given the first question to Nick Ciriani, the in-season, started season, first availability of the coach. First question is, Zach Berman, what you asking?
Well, so, it's an interesting question that you asked that because we're talking before practice, not after practice, right? If you're talking after practice, you want an assessment of Hurts. I think that's the big storyline. But I would say going into camp, you want a rundown of the players in, the players out, injury status. Nick isn't one to give you much in that area, but you want to get a sense of that. They don't have guys coming off of major injuries, but this isn't a training camp where there's this big, pertinent, major topic that needs to come across. I think this is one of those camps where over time you're getting a better sense. It's not. I think back to 2018, everything was when's Carson Wentz going to be on the field, right? And then 2020, it was about the new offense that they had. Last year there were so many questions. Here it's let's get them on the field and let's see how they look.
Well, let's talk about, Zach, that number one story, and it's number one on the jersey number and your hearts, Jalen Hurts. Obviously, this team has done, I think we all agree, Howie Roseman has had an excellent offseason, adding talent to this particular team. Give some love to The Athletic, and your colleague, Mike Sando, just came out with his annual sort of quarterback tiers where he polls coaches and executives. Jalen, tier 3, which I don't think is a surprise, number 20 overall. By the way, he's tied with Carson Wentz. I don't know.
Kind of ironic.
I don't know if the league is trolling us there, but he's tied with Carson Wentz at 20th overall. He took a big jump from last year. Is the possibility. Now, it's tougher to go from 30 to 20. It's tougher to go from 20 to 10, obviously. But do you see that same kind? Is there at least the possibility of that same kind of significant step forward in year 3 for Jalen Hurts?
The short answer is yes. The more nuanced answer is, to me, it's not can he make that jump? It's what's the jump that comes thereafter, right? Because I think based on Jalen's skill set, based on Jalen's personality, it's certainly conceivable for him to be a top half of the league quarterback. But when you're watching Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes in the postseason, when you're watching Matthew Stafford versus Tom Brady in the postseason, what you're wondering is, can he become one of those guys who's winning you those late January games? And I think, and you know this, John, inside the Eagles building, there's a belief that whatever Jalen's potential is, he's going to hit it.
Yeah.
The tougher question for the people in the building is, what exactly is that upside? Because they're not certain of what it is yet. And even if they don't want to put a limit on it, that's going to be the prevailing question with Jalen Hurts, is not can he make the strides to be better. I know he can be better. It's how good can he eventually become?
ZB, coming into camp last year at the tight end position, we knew the Eagles had 2 starter quality tight ends, one of which they were banking on continued improvement and making a commitment to and giving a contract to. The other one, the veteran guy who maybe his better days were behind him, but was still a very viable player. It's a different look in camp this year. It's Dallas Goedert, signed, sealed, delivered, and then a whole bunch of question marks behind him. What's Dallas Goedert's mindset coming into this year? How motivated is he to prove that the contract that he got, he was well worth it? Does he have to try and raise up his guys that he'll be playing with? Because one big hit away and the Eagles are starting a backup tight end this incoming season. What do you think Dallas Goedert's mindset is to start the year in camp this year?
Finally, that's his mindset, right? His mindset is that after all these years of sharing a tight end room, of waiting to become like the unquestioned number one guy, he is the unquestioned number one guy, and you're going to see it in the offense. He's been productive, so it's not as if you're going to see this huge jump in numbers. And there are other players in this passing game, namely A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So his target share isn't going to jump a significant amount either. But he is going to be featured in this offense, and he's going to have a big year as long as he's healthy. They gave him that contract last year with the expectation that he's a top 5 tight end. And I think that's what you're going to see from Dallas Goedert this season.
Do you think there could be any potential issues, Zach, moving forward, in the fact that, as you mentioned, Dallas is number 1 in the tight end room now that Zach is gone, and he was for a portion of last season, but he actually took a step down when you talk about game planning. Last year it was, as Nick would say, 6-88 or 88-6. This year it's going to be 11. And then 6, and then 88. So in theory, you take a step back on an offense that is run dependent, or at least run heavy to begin with. Any concern that there's only one football, you have all these playmakers, that could be an issue moving forward down the line, at least at points?
Not in my mind, for 2 reasons. First off, I don't anticipate them being as run dependent as they were toward the second half last year. I think they did that out of necessity, and I think their hope is that they can pass more. Number one, and then number 2, I expect them to run more overall plays than they did last year. To not just in terms of sustaining drives, because they had sustained drives a decent amount the second half last year. But, you know, there'll be more points. The game won't slow down as much. They're going to have more plays overall. So, no, I don't anticipate that being a problem. Now, if he was in a contract year, maybe it's a bigger question. But, you know, you and I have covered this team when their problem has been they don't have enough guys to pass the ball to.
Yeah.
I think they'll welcome the question of how do you keep everyone happy.
But real quick, as a follow-up to that, Zach, what Nick has talked to us many times, and he's admitted when he talks about the quarterback position, he looks at 4 traits, and he looks at accuracy, decision-making, movement skills, extending plays, off schedule, whatever you want to call it, arm strength. Recently, he kind of shifted. It was always accuracy and decision-making first. He said something interesting to me in the fact that, I think his quote was, sometimes you don't realize until you have it. And he said he's kind of weighing maybe that off schedule, that ability to create something out of nothing is just as important as decision-making, or it's getting closer in his mind. We all assume, I'm in the same category as you, they don't want to be as run heavy. Are they starting to think, okay, we have a unique quarterback. We have to take advantage of that and build around that uniqueness versus, okay, we have good receivers. Let's just drop back and throw the football. Any chance of that sort of sea change in thinking because the quarterback is more unique than you're typically going to see?
Sure. I think internally they don't view that as mutually exclusive. I think they believe that they can adjust their offense to Hurts' skill set and have more of the off schedule plays and trust him in those areas while still relying on him to pass the ball. And I would say that to your question there, and it's a good point. Early on last year, one of the issues, in my opinion, was that they were trying to coach the quarterback they wanted and not the quarterback they had, if that distinction makes sense. And I think that you can't have Jalen Hurts as your quarterback and expect him to be Phillip Rivers. And they stopped having that expectation. And if you coach Jalen Hurts for what he is, for what he brings, and build your package around that, it can be a very good offense. And I think that's what they're really going into this season with the objective being. They're going to pass the ball, but they're going to lean into what Jalen does well as well.
Zach, the Eagles have a decision to make between now and the first game of the season, trying to fit 3 linebackers into 2 spots. If you believe the Eagles are going to have 2 linebackers on the field for most of the plays this year, of course, plenty of sub packages, blah, blah, blah. But most plays, the Eagles are going to have 2 linebackers on the field. They've got 3 good ones, 3 legit starting linebackers, at least in my evaluation, in Edwards and Kazir White and Nakobe Dean. They have X amount of practice hours they're going to put in. They have those all-important 2 joint practices with the Dolphins and with the Browns. How's it going to shake out at linebacker? How are we going to find out? And all 3 of them are going to play. We know that because the Eagles like to shuttle linebackers and situational substitute. But somebody's got to play the most. Somebody's got to play the least. The other guy will be in the middle. How will they go about determining that?
Sure. Well, a lot depends on Nakobe Dean's progress, right? They really haven't seen much of him other than the rookie camp and then, the short period of time they had during OTAs. If Nakobe Dean is the Nakobe Dean we saw at Georgia, if he continues on that stride, on that trajectory, if you will, then it's going to be Nakobe Dean and Kaiser White, in my opinion. And TJ Edwards, who's a fine player, right? But throughout TJ Edwards' throughout his career here, he's been the guy you've gone to when the other options haven't worked out, right? And even though he played well last year, and they gave him that contract, they didn't even tender him. They gave him the contract extension before that. I think that if TJ Edwards is your 3rd linebacker and someone who can play more early in the season while Dean's getting ready, if there are injuries there. But I don't think they're building this defense around the notion that TJ Edwards is their long-term answer at linebacker. So they'll see what those guys have. But, I mean, similar to my answer before about the pass-catching options, we've covered this defense when they haven't had any starting linebackers.
Yeah.
So if their problem is how many linebackers are they going to be able to play, that's a good problem to have as well.
Very true.
That is. And let's talk about the defense as a whole, Zach, because I think it's, I joke that people pay way too much attention to 4-3 versus 3-4 in a league where you're 65%. I think it's ironic that people still call the nickel the sub package. It's not the sub package. The base defense is the sub package. But what do you expect to see from Jonathan Gannon and the fact that people want to put a label on what he's going to play? Can you put a label on it? What is your sort of assessment of what's going on from a schematic standpoint on the defensive side of the football?
So it's an interesting question because you hear from offensive coaches a lot that they want to be matchup dependent, right? And I think that's what you're going to see from the defense. They're going to be a matchup dependent defense. So to give you an example, I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I think 1 week they play the Colts, the next week they play the Packers. The way they play those teams could be different based on the packages that team shows you. They want to be able to adapt to the way they're playing. To the team they're playing. So there are going to be weeks when it might be a heavy Jordan Davis week, right? And there might be weeks when it won't be a heavy Jordan Davis week. Although I guess when I use heavy and Jordan Davis, every week's a heavy Jordan Davis week. But I look at that with the defense. I agree with you that I don't want to say antiquated, but it's somewhat like it lacks nuance to say you're a 3-4 team or you're a 4-3 team. But what you want to be, or I should say what Jonathan Gannon wants to be, is able to play the front that works on a given week. And based on the quarterback you're facing, the offensive line you're facing, the offensive coordinator you're facing, that could change week to week.
All right, Zach B., I find the comparison between the Eagles linebackers and the Eagles safeties intriguing because, again, it's 3 and 2. 2 guys are going to start. 2 guys are going to play most of the snaps. The third guy will be lesser, but how much lesser is to be determined. Is Marcus Epps the Nakobe Dean of the safety group? He was not a starter last year, but certainly contributed and looked good at times. I think both John and I are on the same page that he might be the number 1 safety if you were to rank him. Where would you put Marcus Epps, second, third, or first? How do you rank the 3 Eagles safeties, Harris, Epps, and Tart coming in from San Francisco?
Well, first off, I think Marcus Epps' agent should take that clip and send it to Howie Roseman because if he's the Nakobe Dean of this safety group, then that should come up with the contract negotiations. And that's it. Look, I think Marcus Epps, he's shown promise. In my opinion, I wouldn't build my safety core around Marcus Epps, at least not yet. I mean, I still trust Anthony Harris more. The question there is that I think Epps has more range at this point in his career than Harris does, and they need more range in that secondary. But I think Howie Roseman and the front office had a really good offseason. I still think they did not do nearly enough at safety. And the middle of the field is so important in this defense. They lacked the range there last year. I don't see them having the necessary range there this year, and it could be an issue. And by the way, this wasn't for a lack of trying, right? I mean, they were interested in Marcus Williams. So it's not as if like they have a different evaluation of their depth chart than maybe you and I do, but I think they have to deal with reality, and they have certain prices, for certain positions. But if there's any position on this team where I think come week 8, week 10, we're saying, why didn't they do more this offseason? It's going to be safety because, there's a school of thought that you can get by with safeties with like marginal safeties in today's NFL. I actually think it's the opposite. I think this is more of a safety game than it's been in a long time, and you can compensate for it, and you can look for certain traits. But if you're expecting, your safeties to play with range, then you need safeties who have range.
Yeah, and you bring up Marcus Williams, which was a good point, Zach. The Eagles were very interested in signing him until it got a little bit too expensive. There is one safety out there that people keep talking about, and he won't sign his franchise tender in Cincinnati. Now, the Eagles don't even have the space to bid Jesse Bates in under their salary cap right now. Cincinnati doesn't want to trade him, which is obviously a very difficult hurdle to overcome. And then you would have to talk about, on top of it, probably a first-round pick. Howie's, honest and says, if I like a player, I'll go get the player. If the Eagles think they are a significant contender, would they move mountains for a 25-year-old second-team All-Pro safety if he keeps pushing things in Cincinnati?
Independent of the contract. Yeah, I think Bates is a good player. I don't anticipate them doing it based on like you said, the contract that they would have to give and the draft pick compensation. I think back, my frame of reference here is during the 10 years I've covered the team. Minkah Fitzpatrick, when he was on the trade market, was someone who interested them, but he was also early in his rookie deal. So if you're giving draft pick compensation, you're getting him on a cost-controlled contract. That wouldn't be the case with Jesse Bates here. So I think when you factor in the contracts that are coming up, the contracts that they've already given, it would surprise me at this point. I wouldn't rule it out because he's a good player, but I think that's more of a position that they try to sneak by with this season and they address next offseason.
All right, Zach B., how big is receptions out of the backfield going to be a part of the Eagle offense this year? Because we expect the offense to be different. We expect them to throw it more than they ran it last year. Some people like to say passes to running backs are counted or considered as runs. I've never bought into that. But how big a part of the Eagle offense do you think backs out of the backfield catching ball this year is going to be?
A decent part. I know Nick Sirianni likes it, and he should. I think it's an effective part of any offense. That said, we spoke earlier about the pecking order in the passing game. I think that if with less established or with inferior wide receivers, then you're trying to look for yards in different ways, and that's where you might be feeding Gainwell the ball more out of the backfield or Miles Sanders the ball more out of the backfield. I think with the personnel that they have, that option is going to be, the fourth or fifth look, in your progression. It's not going to be the way it was with, say, Nyheim Hines in Indianapolis when Sirianni was there, because he has better receivers now. And the priority in the passing game is going to be A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert.
Yeah. And Jalen Hurts, I always say, Zach, his ability to run the football, a lot of quarterbacks have to dump it off to the back to get 10, 15 yards. Jalen might just keep it and get 20. And Nick's kind of mentioned that as well. So
I would add to there, a big question I've received from fans this offseason is the lack of the, quote unquote power running back. And in my estimation, Jalen Hurts is their power running back. And, we both know that this is a data-driven organization. If you look at the data of Jalen Hurts, his short yardage running, his goal line running, compare it, say, to LeGarrette Blount's a few years ago. Compare it to Jordan Howard's a few years ago. You're getting more efficiency and better production from Jalen Hurts in those situations than you would the quote-unquote power back. So as long as you're not worried about Jalen Hurts getting injured, I think your power back in this offense is Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, and they just signed their big power back yesterday. Jaquan Hardy going to be the guy.
Not yet. He's coming in today.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I think that's more of a camp body, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Putting the cart before the horse here. I get it. I apologize. All right, week one against the Detroit Lions. Different people have opinions about the Lions coming into the year. Peter King, who I hold his football opinion on high, thinks they're going to be a much improved team. I know Dan Campbell's a quote machine, but I just don't think he's that good a football coach, and I don't think Jared Goff's a very good quarterback, and it may take some time for Hutchinson, the high draft pick, to actually become a guy who's a double-digit sack guy. What happens if the Eagles go to Detroit and lose week 1? I've been a positive Eagle guy looking at the glass half full all day here, so I got to balance the scales. If they go to Detroit and lose week number 1, what's it going to be like around here, Zach Berman?
Well, the three of us would have a lot to talk about, right? I mean, I think, look, this is a soft schedule early in the season, and I think that you don't want to slip up week 1 in Detroit, but it's it doesn't end your season, and there are so many variables in week 1, and we've seen that in years past. I expect them to win that game, but again, I wouldn't overstate it. Now, if they're 1-3, that's problematic because, like I said, the schedule gets more difficult later, middle later in the season. It's kind of the opposite of last year. Last year, we looked at them and you said it might be a tough start, but they can get wins later on. And this year, I don't think that's the case.
Last one from me, Zach. Everybody follow Zach Berman at ZBerm on Twitter. Read him at theathletic.com/Billy. Does a phenomenal job covering this team. Another team the Eagles play this year is the Arizona Cardinals. I got to be honest, Zach. I got a little sticker shock when I saw Kyler Murray's contract. Now, it's not a problem for the Eagles right now. They don't have to worry about it until after this season. But we've talked about Jalen Hurts and the potential extension, and you got to think about the future when you're talking about the present in this league as well, especially as a general manager. You know where this is going. Lamar Jackson's next. You got Joe Burrow. You got Justin Herbert. These prices are only going to go up and up and up and up. And if you start talking about letting Jalen play out his rookie deal, letting him play on the franchise tag by that time, Zach, is going to be upwards of $35 to $40 million. Yeah. Does any of this change the Eagles' thought process at the quarterback position from a larger picture standpoint, just because how expensive it is doing the cost of business at that position on a second deal?
I think that it's a valid question. If you have the right quarterback, you're not worried about paying that price. And that you are correct. That price is going to keep going up. That's why the Eagles paid Carson when they did, right? Because they didn't think there were going to be any discounts in future years, and they projected that correctly. Now the player they did not project, but correct. That's besides the point. I don't think it factors too much into the short-term evaluation of Jalen Hurts. I actually think that if push came to shove, they would let him play out that 4th year of the deal, and then they would worry about the year after that, the year after that. But it does give you, to a degree, more of a pressure point in terms of making that decision, because next year's draft is going to be deeper at quarterback, or more, it's going to be better at quarterback than this year's draft. You never know who's going to be available, but in terms of free agency or trades, but more so, you're not going to have an endless supply. I shouldn't say endless supplies. You're not going to have a premium supply of resources every year. And the Eagles have a premium supply of resources again next season. So I think it's more likely the Eagles have to decide one way or the other with Jalen Hurts if he's your guy going forward after the season. But again, I don't view the same pressure, if you will, on making that contract decision, because he can play out the 4th year of his deal. And I don't think that they should necessarily be averse to that, but they can make, there's going to be more pressure on them to make that decision about whether Hurts is your guy or not after this season.
All right, last one for me, Zach. Since last year's number ended at 2, I will set this year's under-over number at 1.5. Sacks by Derek Barnett. Are you going over 1.5 or under 1.5?
I'm going over 1.5. I mean, look, Derek Barnett's not going to have the same role here that he's had in past years. But if you're an edge rusher on passing downs, you can stumble your way into 2 sacks. And so, yeah, I would feel good taking the over in that category.
And he did stumble his way into 2 sacks last year. So Zach's saying he's just as good this year as he was last year. We'll see if that plays out. ZB, always a pleasure, buddy. Appreciate it. You know, we're going to tap into you every once in a while to come on with us because we appreciate your insight to the Eagles. McMullen appreciates standing next to you when you're out there on grass time.
Makes him feel taller.
Guys who takes hygiene the right way. It should be a fun upcoming season. Looking forward to reading you in the Athletic, getting you here on Birds 365. Thanks, bud.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That is Zach Berman, outstanding beat writer, doing it for years here in town, formerly Athletic Inquirer, now at the Athletic. And, good enough to hop aboard when we ask him to join us here on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, we still got a couple of minutes left. You know what we got to do? Come back, put a bow on today's show.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
7 on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Down the home stretch of this last show of the year that the Eagles will not be underway. They're underway tomorrow. They're reporting tomorrow. So
underway.
Officially gets underway. This is the last non-underway show that we're doing, and we've only got a couple of minutes left. So I'm going to finish on this note, John, because I thought it was a fair question for Zach Berman, and I think it's a fair question for you too. And it may just play out this way that when the assembled beat writers get together on Wednesday and they have their first crack at Nick Ciriani, who will go first. You told me the coaches will be made available before practice. Do you think that means multiple or just Nick?
They rotate. It's Nick one day, then Gannon, the coordinators. So
right. So day one's got to be Nick, right?
Yeah, day one will be Nick. Yes.
Yeah, they're not going to throw your coordinator to have your first media session. So Nick Ciriani will be the first one to address you guys. If they decide that John McMullen gets to ask the first question, J-Mac, where you going with the coach?
First question, because Jack kind of led into it, is not that interesting before practice, so I'll probably defer. But if it were me, I would ask about last year. It took him, I think, 8 practices to install his offense. I'd ask him, because they shifted again. They shifted the way the ramp-up period is bigger now. So I would ask him how long it's going to take to install the offense. Something mundane like that, because there's nothing. This is a very, as Zach kind of mentioned, this is a very quiet beginning of training camp. Not a lot of questions. We've talked about Jalen ad nauseum, to be honest. We got to see him out there. So I want to hear how he's going to approach this summer. Most importantly,
what will be the key elements to the camp that the Eagles will get underway? Yeah, agreed. And we'll see if Nick has answers for us. You're not going to ask him about throwdown on the tennis court? Do we need?
I'm going to ask Nick about that at some point. Probably off
not question number one. No, you're not going to start with that, huh?
No, probably more off to the side. I'm sure some knucklehead will try to do it in front of the microphones.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, I will find out the details of the big Haddonfield brouhaha.
And then he will share them with you guys right here on Birds 365. All right. Yes, first grass time for you guys on Wednesday. How long exactly are you going to be allowed to stay? How long do you expect the Eagles to put in whatever work they put in to actually run, J-Mac?
I think the first day they're limited to 90 minutes by the CBA. I have to double check that. I sent you the schedule. I don't have it.
No, I think you're right. I think 90 minutes is exactly what it said.
So they're going to be on and off the field. Then, talking to the players after is going to be a couple hours. So it's an all day. It's always an all day affair. Then you got to go back and work. It's an all day affair. Joe.
All right. Behind the curtain, who decides what players you get what day here in preseason?
Well, the Eagles PR department. Interestingly, because training camp, the rosters are so big. Now, the NFL has said locker rooms are going to be open, but that's not going to happen till the regular season because there's a 90-man roster. The Eagles locker room is very small to begin with, comparatively speaking to some of these new super facilities. So it's going to be similar to last year in training camp then as things whittled down to 53 and the regular season, the locker room is going to be open. So it's the Eagles PR staff, and you can request as a reporter certain people on certain days. Obviously, day one, it's going to be, Jalen Hurts of the world, the high profile people. And then as camp trudges on, start going down the list.
And we'll have to see how the Eagles, their PR staff, decides. And you're right. And I'm glad that you confirmed that you can put in requests for certain individuals. Sometimes you get those requests answered affirmatively, and other times you have to wait. But looking forward to hearing your camp update starting Wednesday, which means it's Mac here again tomorrow. Joining us tomorrow will be BLG, Brandon Lee Gouton, and Chris Franklin, correct?
Correct. And then camp starts Wednesday, and Thursday's the first day off. So I'll be
Right back here. Suck it up and be here for both hours on Thursday, McMullen.
Yeah, I think it's funny, but yeah, I will be here. And then Friday back on the field. I believe that's the schedule. I believe, but I'm not 100% sure.
And you're going to have to stay tuned here to Birds 365 to see which Eagle guys sharing insight will be with us on a day in, day out basis. All right, partner. Looking forward to tomorrow before we lose you to the grass on Wednesday. I say we do this again come 22 hours from now.
Let's do it, Jody. Yeah. And hopefully the weather's going to break. Hopefully it gets a little cooler for Wednesday. Hopefully.
Johnny Mac with that heavy sunblock will stay. Use it on Wednesday. But we'll both be right here in front of our viewing cameras for you guys tomorrow in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.